The story hits the ground running in the heart of Paris. Harvard symbologist Robert Langdon is woken up in the middle of the night by the French judicial police. Jacques Saunière, the esteemed curator of the Louvre, has been brutally murdered inside the museum. When Langdon arrives at the scene, he finds a deeply unsettling sight. Before his death, Saunière stripped off his clothes and arranged his body into the precise shape of Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. Even more bizarre, he left a series of cryptic messages written on the floor in invisible fluorescent ink, including a chaotic scrambled sequence of numbers and a direct instruction to find Robert Langdon. Langdon quickly realizes he isn't there as an expert consultant. He is the prime suspect. The lead investigator, the ruthless Bézu Fache, is convinced Langdon is the killer. Just before Langdon is cornered, Sophie Neveu, a brilliant French police cryptologist, slips into the crime scene. She secretly reveals to Langdon that Saunière was actually her estranged grandfather, and that his message was a hidden warning meant specifically for her to save Langdon. Together, utilizing a clever distraction, they execute a daring, breathless escape from the heavily guarded museum, successfully evading Fache's dragnet. As they flee through the dark streets of Paris, Sophie and Langdon begin to piece together the scattered clues left behind by the curator. Saunière's messages turn out to be a complex series of anagrams pointing directly to the masterpieces of Leonardo da Vinci, specifically the Mona Lisa and the Madonna of the Rocks. Hidden behind the protective glass of these priceless paintings, they discover a physical object, a beautiful, uniquely crafted fleur-de-lis key bearing the initials P. Ses. Langdon instantly recognizes the symbol, realizing that Saunière wasn't just a museum curator. He was the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, a real, ancient, secret society dedicated to protecting a truth that could shatter the foundations of Western civilization. The first part reaches a tense climax as the duo tracks the mysterious key to the Paris branch of the Depository Bank of Zurich. Fache's police units are closing in fast, blocking off the surrounding perimeter. Inside the bank's high-tech automated vault, the key grants them access to a secure safety deposit box left by Saunière. Inside, they find a beautifully crafted, heavy wooden box. But before they can open it, the bank's security alerts the police. With the sirens wailing outside in the night, Langdon and Sophie manage to hijack an armored delivery truck, escaping into the fog with a treasure they don't yet understand, pursued by both the law and a shadowy, lethal assassin. Inside the escaping armored truck, Sophie and Langdon open the wooden box to find a cryptex, a portable vault invented by Leonardo da Vinci himself. It is a stone cylinder surrounded by rotating letter rings, designed to hold a papyrus scroll wrapped around a glass vial of vinegar. If you force it open without the password, the vial breaks, and the acid destroys the text forever. To solve the riddle of the password, they need a safe place to think. Langdon suggests visiting Sir Lee Teabing, a wealthy British royal historian and a passionate expert on the Holy Grail, who lives in a heavily guarded chateau just outside Paris. Teabing welcomes them, and what follows is the intellectual core of the entire thriller. Teabing reveals to Sophie that her grandfather was protecting the ultimate secret of the Holy Grail. But the Grail isn't a golden cup, as medieval myths suggest. Teabing shows them a large reproduction of Da Vinci's masterpiece, The Last Supper. He points out that the figure sitting to the right of Jesus isn't the Apostle John, but a woman, Mary Magdalene. The Holy Grail, Teabing explains, is actually a metaphor for Mary Magdalene herself, who was pregnant with Jesus' child at the time of the crucifixion. The Priory of Sion's sole purpose was to protect the bloodline of Christ, which survived and blended into European royalty. This explosive revelation is cut short by a violent intrusion. Silas, a fanatical albino monk working for a radical Catholic sect called Opus Dei, has tracked them down. Silas is working for a mysterious figure known only as the Teacher, who wants to destroy the Grail secrets to protect the church. Silas attacks the chateau, but Teabing and Langdon manage to overpower and bind him. At the exact same moment, the French police surround the property. Fash has tracked the armored truck directly to Teabing's estate. Act 2 reaches a frantic climax as Teabing uses his private wealth and status to orchestrate a getaway. He smuggles Langdon, Sophie, a bound Silas, and his own servant onto his private jet at a local airfield. As the plane rolls down the runway, police cars scream across the tarmac, just missing the aircraft as it lifts off into the stormy night sky. Destination: London. As they fly over the English Channel, Langdon looks down at the cryptex in his hands, realizing that the password to unlocking the locations of the modern bloodline is hidden in a poem they have yet to decipher. Teabing's private jet touches down at a quiet airfield outside London, narrowly evading the British police thanks to another clever ruse by the wealthy historian. Silas remains their captive, bound and gagged in the back of Teabing's limousine. The decrypted clue from Saunier's poem points them directly to Temple Church, a circular medieval stronghold built by the legendary Knights Templar in the heart of London. Langdon believes the next clue to opening the cryptex lies on the tombs of the stone knights buried inside the church's ancient nave. The atmosphere shifts from high-tech chase to Gothic suspense. Inside the dim, echoing Temple Church, Langdon and Sophie frantically inspect the effigies of the knights, looking for a missing element that matches the riddle. But the quiet is shattered by a brutal ambush. Teabing's seemingly loyal butler, Remy, turns out to be a traitor. Working secretly with Silas, Remy frees the fanatical monk. Together, they hold Sophie and Langdon at gunpoint. In the ensuing chaos, Remy kidnaps Teabing and steals the cryptex, leaving Langdon and Sophie trapped inside the church as police sirens begin to wail in the distance. What Langdon and Sophie don't know is that the web of betrayal runs even deeper. The Teacher, the mysterious mastermind orchestrating the entire hunt, is actually Lee Teabing himself, driven by a fanatical obsession to reveal the Grail truth to the world before he dies. Teabing orchestrated Saunier's murder and used Opus Dei as a pawn. To tie up loose ends, Teabing poisons his accomplice Remy with a lethal dose of peanut oil inside the limousine, and anonymous tip-offs lead the police straight to Silas, resulting in a bloody shootout at an Opus Dei headquarters where the monk is mortally wounded. Meanwhile, Langdon and Sophie manage to escape Temple Church and trace the actual solution of the riddle to Westminster Abbey, the burial site of Sir Isaac Newton. They realize Newton was a Grand Master of the Priory of Sion, and his tomb holds the final answer. Act 3 reaches a breathtaking cliffhanger when they arrive at the crowded abbey. Waiting for them in the shadows of the magnificent monument is Teabing, no longer pretending to be a victim. He holds a gun in one hand and the cryptex in the other, demanding that Langdon solve the final password so they can reveal Christ's bloodline together, or watch the secret turn to dust forever. Deep inside Westminster Abbey, the standoff reaches its breaking point. Teabing holds the gun, demanding the password. Langdon pretends to agree, asking to examine the cryptex one last time. As he looks at the stone cylinder, the true meaning of the riddle finally clicks in his mind. The password is APPLE, the falling fruit that inspired Isaac Newton's theory of gravity, the orb that fell from heaven, mentioned in Sauniere's poem. In a split second, Langdon turns away and tosses the cryptex high into the air. Teabing screams, dropping his gun to catch the priceless artifact, but he misses. The stone cylinder slams into the marble floor, shattering the internal glass vial. Teabing falls to his knees in despair, believing the secret is lost forever. But Langdon smiles. He had already solved the password, opened the cylinder, and removed the papyrus scroll before throwing it. At that exact moment, Bezu Fatch bursts into the abbey with armed police. Fatch, having realized Teabing was the true mastermind behind the murders, strips the historian of his titles and leads him away in handcuffs. The final map on the papyrus scroll leads Langdon and Sophie to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, a legendary temple covered in mysterious Masonic and Templar carvings. There, the thriller transforms into a deeply emotional family reunion. Sophie discovers that the chapel's caretakers are actually her grandmother and her long-lost brother. Sauniere had faked their deaths years ago to protect them from the enemies of the Priory. Sophie is not just an orphan. She is a direct descendant of the Merovingian royal bloodline, the living, breathing lineage of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. The story concludes back in Paris. Langdon, finally resting at the Ritz, realizes the ultimate riddle left by Sauniere was never about a secret hidden in Scotland. The Rose Line map points back to the starting line, the Louvre. In the final, poetic shots of the summary, Langdon walks out under the night sky to the Louvre's famous glass inverted pyramid. He kneels down on the pavement, realizing that deep in the subterranean vault beneath the stone floor, directly under the apex of the pyramid, lies the true final resting place of Mary Magdalene. The secret remains safe, guarded by the art and the city he loves.